Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Thank you for joining our session today. Let me start with, as we will be having a very interactive session, let me introduce you first to the Slido Q&A code so that you can start connecting to it. Meanwhile, we are introducing you to the session. Please feel free to connect through your phone or through the direct link that you can see as well on the left side of the page that you are watching us at. You will as well be able, during the Slido, we will be launching at the beginning 3 polls that you can already see in the Slido while you connect to have a better understanding of where are you coming from today to this session. In the meantime, let me introduce myself. My name is Magdalena Gajdzińska. I'm the Policy Officer in the Food Systems Transformation within the Director General for Research and Innovation of the European Commission in Brussels, responsible for microbiome, EU-Africa Union and international relations. Prior to this assignment, I have worked in the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, and I have an experience from the EU institutions, Polish Veterinary Administration, and I have graduated in Poland within veterinary medicine and specialized in hygiene of food of animal origin. Let me introduce you to the session at the beginning. So the urgency to transform our food systems for sustainability, climate, and resilience has been heightened by the combined effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, the unprovoked Russian invasion, and increasing climate shocks, all affecting global food and nutrition security. In this session, speakers will discuss the urgency to act, highlighting the key role of research and innovation in accelerating the transition to resilient and sustainable food systems. It will address 3 scales of actions, from global to local, via lightning talks, setting out the importance of the EU research and innovation cooperation and the need for science, policy, society interfaces for improved food system governance. We will have 3 different 3 panels: local panel, regional panel, and global panel with speakers representing those regions. And as indicated at the beginning, I would like to get to know you a little bit. Therefore, please kindly indicate through Slido which continent do you represent. Could we have the poll results on the screen? Yes. Please connect through the Slido. Please let us know where do you come from. Which continent do you represent? I think we have, okay, we have so far Europe joining. I hope we have some bigger representation. We have South America as well. So far, we have the most European representation. Please join to Slido through the chat, through the website you are watching us in, or as well through just simply scanning the QR code with your phone on the that you see on the screen. So we have the most Europe, Africa, and South America representation at this moment. Let us maybe jump to the second poll to understand a bit more. What signs of climate change have you felt since your childhood to today? Oh, we have already quite some answers. That's really nice. We can see some drought, wind, rising water levels, heat, less green spaces as well. Changes of landscape, but droughts are the most popular answer. About what signs of climate change have you felt since your childhood to today? Heat waves, yes, indeed, heat as well. So we have the biggest amount of votes for drought, heat, rainfall, temperature. We have plenty of different signs of climate change that we have felt since we were young, and they are getting worse and worse. We can see more and more various signs of climate change affecting us, affecting our food systems, affecting our everyday life. We have added extreme weather, biodiversity loss, and change of landscapes. Let us go to the third poll right now. And please, I would like to kindly ask you to, using one word, which food system related issue do you feel is most at risk in view of current or future climate impacts? Simply, if you could let us know, please, which food related aspect is in danger due to the changing climate that we have just dropped some words about from what we saw from childhood. We have food availability, food affordability, major industry, crop resilience, availability again, food security as well. So the most at risk, asked by our participants today, is the food availability, food affordability, and food security. Let us start, therefore, our session, and let me introduce you to our first speaker, to open our session, Hans-Jörg Lutzeyer. Since 1999, he has been a policy officer at the European Commission at DG Research Innovation, and in recent years at the Directorate for Healthy Planet, he was responsible for the Horizon Europe Partnership on Sustainable Food Systems, the Food Systems Perspective, and the European Union African Union Research and Innovation Priority on Food and Nutrition Security and Sustainable Agriculture, and the Secretariat of the Standing Committee on Agricultural Research. And since April 2022, he is an active senior. Hans-Jörg, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Magdalena, for this kind introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. And it's a great pleasure to have you with us in our virtual side event of COP27 on food systems. So food systems generate 1/3 of all greenhouse gas emissions. Many vulnerable communities experience increasing loss and damages due to climate change, and you have expressed it just now. Malnutrition, hunger, and famine are the result of the actions or inactions of all of us. So we need to act for climate and people. On global level, last year was a eureka moment when the UN staged its first ever food system summit. Food systems became a thing and finally entered the political discourse. On European level, the ambitious policy directions set by the EU Green Deal and its Farm to Fork strategy changed the tone. Since 2015 in DG Research and Innovation of the European Commission, we anticipated such developments and advocate for a systems approach to research and innovation policy that we call Food 2030 to deliver co-benefits to climate, environment, nutrition, health, and communities from farm to fork and back. Through 10 pathways for action, we are catalyzing and funding advances on food systems leverage points like microbiome applications, nutrition, food systems Africa, alternative proteins, food waste reduction, dietary shift, and innovation in governance and system science. On global level, as an example of food systems governance innovation, I wish to refer to the EC high-level group established to explore needs and options to improve the international science policy interface for food systems transformation. And Jackie McLeod will explain more in a few minutes. On regional level, on regional European level, another inspiring example I wish to share is how we work with EU member states and associate countries via the Standing Committee of Agriculture Research, which serves to align research and innovation priorities with the EC, member states, and associated countries in view of climate change related to food systems, agriculture, forestry, and bioeconomy. Most recently, the SCAR has also taken on the coordination role for the establishment of 4 new Horizon Europe partnerships on food systems, agroecology, animal health, and agriculture of data. These are co-funding mechanisms to that aim to federate research innovation funders around ambitious, impact-driven R&I agendas. I would also like to mention two international cooperation partnerships to which Horizon Europe programming is contributing to. The first is the EU-African Union Research and Innovation Partnership on Food and Nutrition Security and Sustainable Agriculture. It is based on co-ownership and joint funding mechanisms between Europe and Africa to create synergies and optimize investments and identify gaps, and it calls for food systems approach, linking research to innovation and strengthening resilience and involving all relevant stakeholders for enhanced impact on local level, with current investment levels of around 400 million euros. More to come when we will publish the precise topics of the next work program, end of November, followed by info days on 13th and 14th of December. An international research consortium, the latest flagship of the partnership, was announced last September, and I'm sure Irene Frempong will say a few words in a moment. The second is the second international partnership I would like to mention is PRIMA, the Partnership for Research and Innovation in the Mediterranean area, which is an intergovernmental program of innovation launched by the EU and 19 countries around the Mediterranean to face the challenges that climate change poses for the region, mainly in terms of efficient water supply, agriculture, and sustainable food production, and their nexus. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope this has opened a few perspectives on where and how research and innovation on food systems transition in Europe and the world is addressing the climate crisis. Now I'm curious to listen to you and the next speakers. Back to you, Magdalena.
Thank you so much, Hans-Jörg. Now I would like to introduce Ms. Jacqueline McGlade. She's a professor at Statmore University in Kenya, known for her research on data in informatics and the use of Earth observations and assessments of agri-food systems, biodiversity, climate change, ecosystems, oceans, social dynamics, and indigenous knowledge, sustainable development, and non-linear dynamics. She has developed innovative software for land stewardship, virtual gaming, and decision-making in a diverse array of settings. And Jacqueline, I would like to kindly ask you to speak a little bit more about what is needed to strengthen the science policy interfaces to climate-proof food systems, in particular to adapt to climate change and build resilience. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And just as Hans-Jörg has said, we have an expert group looking at where does science policy come from? How do we actually, what's that interface that will bring knowledge into the kind of conversations such as we're having here at COP27. And I think the challenge is that no matter how much we look at it, it's that localized knowledge that's going to have to be motivated in the face of climate change, because every place is different, but every place counts. So as a member of the expert group, the high-level expert group, we really worked hard at producing a report which was very inclusive. It was called Everyone at the Table. And the idea was, of course, to bring all of those different elements, social, economic, as well as the science, to thinking about how to solve global, regional, and local issues. In our final recommendations, we had sort of three pathways to try and address this topic. First of all, we could see that the way that knowledge was coming together so that we could provide and serve the negotiations that are going on here, we needed to adapt to what we currently have, adding extra resources and really trying to make it more interoperable, making the data and the knowledge fit for purpose across the world. We also needed to enhance the landscape of knowledge because we needed different sectors to be included. Not only was it about the food production side in terms of the biophysical nature of climate change, but we had also to consider trade, supply chains, and retail. And all of that enhancement is really the only way that we're going to be able to address food security in the future. And so ultimately, it's about creating a network of networks. There's no doubt about it, but sort of the take-home messages are it's urgent, we need that political commitment, but we have to be able to blend different kinds and forms of knowledge. So as a consequence, I think the big take-home message for us is that transforming global food systems is one of the highest priorities that we have. It's going to drive food security and nutritional outcomes, but it has to be done within the context of climate change and all of the pressures that are being put on member states to find a way through the loss and damage calculations, how much money will we need to adapt. And genuinely, it's very much about creating solidarity around our food systems. So to kind of put it in context, if we think about the damages that climate change is bringing today, in probably just one event like in Pakistan, we could see $30 billion worth of damage. To actually invest in food security as we start to recover from those large-scale events is going to be the priority. Thinking about how will we get agriculture, how will we get food systems working, because it's going to happen again and again and again. And it's not going to be the benefit, it's not going to be the responsibility of the World Food Programme, it's going to be the actual responsibility of farmers locally. So I think overall, our science policy interface is going to have to be far more flexible and much more responsive to give information as it's needed by people in these completely changing circumstances, where perhaps farmers are going to find themselves in a situation where they've never been before. And so the future has to be, how can we effect that transformation through integration and bringing knowledge and policy advice over all of these scales, and not just simply saying there's one place that you'll get all the information that you need. We need to have that working together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jacqueline. Let me introduce right now Dr. Irene Frempong, who is the coordinator of the Horizon 2020 Leap for FNSSA project. She is the immediate past director of research and innovation at FARA, where she coordinated many continent-wide research and capacity development projects, including the Science Agenda for Agriculture in Africa initiative. Irene is currently a member of the Foresight Food Steering Group and served as a commissioner of the CGIAR Commission on Sustainable Agriculture Intensification between 2020 and 2021. And I would like to kindly ask Irene to answer the question: what are the top research and innovation priorities needed to climate-proof food systems in Africa relevant to international cooperation? Irene, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Magdalena, and good day, good afternoon to all of you around the globe. I guess we'll go straight with an anchor statement that we know quite a lot. So I think the starting point is to bring all that we know together and to prioritize collective processes, for instance, building coalitions, prioritizing knowledge exchange, and of course, capacity for building the evidence for effective adaptive approaches. And policies, decisions, and actions should yield a new wave of resilient, climate-smart outcomes for food systems. So that's my anchor statement that I will start with. And of course, it is premised on a number of priorities that we also know about from the Africa side. The Agenda 2063, of course, very clear, STISA 2024, the CADA, the Africa Continental Free Trade Areas. They provide relevant priorities for research and innovation that again are supported under, as we heard from Hansja, the European Green Deal and Farm to Fork strategy, and of course, the very recent EU-Africa strategy for sustainable and inclusive development, which calls for increasing sustainable productivity and for the agricultural sector, and of course, its resilience to climate change. And let me mention that it identifies, of course, the food nutrition security for sustainable agriculture as a central priority. So from my perspective, I see that this is a transition, a green transition that calls for collective action, as we've heard from the previous speaker. And it requires, therefore, a strong coordination of efforts to fast track the desirable outcomes in terms of climate-proof food systems. I would put forward just three pertinent priority areas for achieving that. First is that we need to make use of exchange of knowledge and best practices, and this must include knowledge between Africa and Europe, including African indigenous knowledge. The second area and priority for me will be to build that capacity that will assemble the evidence we need. I mean, the evidence through fact-finding, rethinking the elements of the food system, balancing the synergies and trade-offs, solutions that we have now to accelerate the transition. There's quite a lot that we know, including agroecological approaches that are currently underway, and a number of things we know already. We also know that when we talk about sustainability, a number of the SDGs already come together to ensure that we achieve sustainability. So we know quite a lot. The challenge, of course, is how do we bring them to scale within the shortest possible time? Because we're talking about the urgency. So we need game changers that will help us to reach all these priority goals at scale. So the third priority, I think, to address your question, Magdalena, is that we need to build those bridges between various communities. We need to build the coalitions of the willing, or even better, coalitions of the determined. And this is where I will mention that policy, albeit very important, is not going to do it all. And so will goals for research. This is where the International Research Consortium is being has been launched as a network of networks. And I like that term when the previous speaker mentioned, to strengthen the research and innovation transition to climate smart, sustainable food systems. The IRC, actually, what we're doing is trying to facilitate interaction between African and European researchers, policy officers, representatives of communities. Members will be dedicated to collaborate and to participate in dialogues, hence building the capacity in the food systems. And of course, the IRC will be a learning platform to exchange professional, local, traditional knowledge. This IRC will also bring together funders and implementers of research, and also provide that knowledge management system that makes information transparent on specific subjects, whether it's theme, country, region, organization in Africa and Europe. In this way, the IRC presents a unique opportunity of our time if we're looking to fast track the transition process to climate proofing food systems. This is what I will call you to join. It is an open call to all legal entities in research and innovation to make us ensure that we adapt to the emerging climate change that we see. Thank you very much, Magdalena.
Thank you so much, Irene. I've heard from the IT team that we are already behind schedule. We are already 10 minutes behind. Therefore, I'm afraid we might need to skip the Q&A at this stage to allow all of the speakers to take the floor as well. Therefore, I would like to apologize you, Jacqueline and Irene, for not having the Q&A directly, but I encourage participants to ask questions in the chat anyways, as we are all there as well, possibly answering to the questions you will post. Therefore, let me jump to the session on regional perspective, where we are going to have 3 speakers. And I would like the speakers to answer the question about what are the co-benefits of regional cooperation on research and innovation to transform our food systems. Can climate proofing and nutrition objectives be mutually supportive? And I would like to ask first Professor Annette Rezek-Jambrak, a professor at Faculty of Food Technology and Biotechnology of the University of Zagreb in Croatia. And from 2019, she's a head of laboratory for sustainable development. Her field of research is non-thermal processing, advanced thermal processing, sustainability, food processing, industry 4.0. And she has received Emerging Sustainability Leader Award from NDPI Sustainability Foundation 2019. I would like to give the floor to Annette for her 3 minutes lightning speech. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon from Zagreb, from Croatia. This is a really important topic that we need to speak about. So the importance of collaboration and interdisciplinary collaboration in order to achieve sustainability and sustainable development goals. So the idea is definitely that we are already too late. and that we have used all the resources that we have, and we are really in the end of we need to find a solution to transform our food systems. So in order to have a collaboration, it's important that we join forces and activities, especially in the academia, industry, and also regarding policies, in order to transform our food systems. So sustainability is really 3 pillars discussion, so the impact to the environment, economy, and society. And the aim is to bring innovation in order to target environmentally friendly technologies, and also to include those technologies in food production and food systems. So idea is definitely to assure that we have lower energy emission technologies, that we have lower processing time, and in order to reduce our emissions to the environment. Therefore, also regarding nutrition objectives and diets, there is a need to adjust and to educate our consumers, and to think about daily basis, to focus more on plant-based products in order to achieve this impact. So there is the need to innovate in terms of food processing and food technologies, and the idea is definitely to set a policy and to educate in research and academia and innovation how to target food loss and food waste, and also how to measure sustainability, how to value that something is sustainable or not, and also to think about life cycle assessment, to think about emissions in terms of water waste, carbon footprint. And the end is really, in the end, it's really necessary to think about all sustainable development goals, especially the 17 partnership for the goals, because this is the only way that we can achieve food system sustainability. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, dear Annette. I would like to give the floor to Heva Yildirim, and she has a background in economics and is currently working as a research officer in Value Chain Analysis for Development project. She was awarded the CM Award, the Master of Science, Best Thesis Award in 2013. Her PhD thesis of 2017 aims at setting up the bridge between ecosystem services and territorial development research communities by suggesting a new concept, the basket of ecosystem services. Heva, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Magdalena, and good afternoon to all of you from Brussels. The starting point of my speech to answer your first question will be the value chains. Value chains are at the heart of food systems, linking agricultural production to consumers. Producing evidence-based knowledge for the use of policymakers is substantial to achieve a transition towards sustainable and inclusive food systems. The VCA4D methodology, VCA4D Value Chain Analysis for Development project, financed by INSPA, European Commission INSPA, and implemented by AgriNatura, was designed to provide evidence and data needed to respond to the needs of European Union as an aid provider. VCA4D proposed a methodological framework for value chain analysis that goes beyond conventional socioeconomic methods by also including social and environmental dimensions. Its analytical framework is structured towards 4 framing questions. The first one, what is the impact of the value chain to economic growth? Is this economic growth inclusive? Is the value chain socially sustainable? Is the value chain environmentally sustainable? Particularly, food and nutrition security and the impact of the value chain activities on climate change are addressed and assessed by indicators in all of the 42 studies completed. VCA4D does not specifically address regional issues, but its innovative methodology helps to identify the trade-off points from a local to a global scale. Strengthening capacity is another important aspect of the VCA4D project. These include creating links among stakeholders and institutions in Europe and partner countries through workshops, trainings, and partnerships. Regarding to the second question, VCA4D contributes to food systems transformation by providing useful information for policy action. Our role is to make explicit the trade-offs between environmental impacts, for instance, risk of deforestation or intensive use of chemical fertilizers, and livelihood and nutrition benefits for farmers through increasing income and availability of food. Indeed, VCA4D studies revealed that there can be some win-win outcomes on nutrition and climate change. For instance, in Ghana, reducing the environmental impact of land use through virtual agricultural practices of groundnuts production significantly benefit women at all stages of the value chain and their ability to meet food and nutritional requirements of their family. The life cycle assessment used for the environmental analysis in the VCA4D methodology helps to quantify impacts and reflect on the scaling out of value chain development. As a last point, I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that the VCA4D methodology identifies trade-offs, but it's then the role of policymakers to identify the good policies and actions to be taken. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Heval. Now I would like to give the floor to David Bassett, which assumed the role of General Secretary in the European Aquaculture Technology Innovation Platform at the beginning of 2021, and is responsible for the day-to-day management and strategic coordination of his European-wide multi-stakeholder aquaculture European Technology Platform. David has worked within the aquaculture industry since 2005, spending a decade as a chief executive of the UK Producers Association. And throughout his role, he became active in European aquaculture, working at the EATAP and the Federation of European Aquaculture Producers, where he followed a number of EU-funded framework program projects. David, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for the invitation to comment from the aquaculture and aquatic foods perspective. And again, good afternoon from Brussels. So looking first from your question at co-benefits, looking at it from a European technology platform perspective, regional cooperation fosters the use of practical tools for improving research and innovation transformation. And here we're talking about sharing best practice, knowledge transfer, dissemination and communication of research results, and innovation transfer at varying TRL levels. So from market-ready tools and systems to methodologies and common approaches. That all works towards developing benefits, including, in this context, a whole picture of food systems. So integrating aquatic foods and aquatic-derived products, compounds, and ingredients into the food system value chain. Particularly within food systems, where so many actors are micro and SME businesses, there are issues. So SMEs can prove to be very innovative, but lack a sufficiently large market, while others experience limited capacity to develop their own transformation and can therefore benefit from adopting solutions already developed in other regions and situations. Food networks are obviously local, regional, EU-wide and global, and inter-regional collaboration and cooperation are essential. For our sector, this is especially relevant for the EU in regard that aquatic foods, we see 80% of aquatic foods consumed in Europe imported. So for us, global networks, very important. And our experience in international collaboration actions is looking at improving sustainability in aquaculture through strategic research and innovation agendas. At an EU level, it's more looking at smart specialization strategies and obviously the EU partnerships and framework programs and missions. In terms of climate proofing and nutrition objectives being mutually supportive from an aquatic foods perspective, in short, the answer is yes. Growing and developing aquatic foods has a key role here. It's been noted elsewhere during the COP27 sessions. I'm thinking particularly with regard to the intervention from FAO and other colleagues. Aquaculture represents a very efficient, low impact, low emission protein production system. There are specific environmental advantages to aquaculture production, including through decarbonisation when we're considering shellfish and algae production, and integrated low trophic production, including through regional zoning of low trophic production. And the environmental management system benefits provided contribute there in addition to nature-based solutions, again referenced earlier in the COP sessions. Aquaculture provides not only essential animal protein, but it's also a route, of course, to providing other ingredients, fatty acids, nutraceuticals, and pharmaceuticals. And finally, from a marine farming perspective, there are further benefits in terms of relieving pressure on land and terrestrial production that can then be used for other production. Thank you for the opportunity to comment, and I look forward to the questions later.
Thank you so much, dear David. I would like to skip this Q&A session after those speakers as well, and we will come back to any questions posted on slide at the very end of all of the speakers before the closing remarks. So please stay with us and keep posting questions in slide, and we will come back to a selected couple of them as we are a bit behind time. So I want to have the chance for every speaker to take the floor. Therefore, I would like to go to the local panel right now, where we will have Kofi, Pasqualin, and Pamela, and I would like to answer the question, what R&I is needed at the local level in cities and in rural areas to ensure that nutrition and food environments, physical, economic, political, and social cultural context adapt to climate change. And at first, I would like to give the floor to Kofi, Kofi Kisiedu. He works at the Forum for Rural Agricultural Research in Africa, supporting youth and agribusiness producers. As the regional coordinator of the Young Professionals in Agricultural Development Africa, he oversees the activities of EPART country chapters in Africa. Under his leadership, he has established a mentorship framework for youth in agriculture research for development, and he was geared towards strengthening youth's capacity to undertake research activities and position them for opportunities to participate in policy development processes. Kofi, the floor is yours. Kofi, Mike?
Okay, yes, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Regards from YPAD, that's the Young Professionals for Agricultural Development, and also from FARA, our host institution, the Forum for Agricultural Research in Africa. And in the discussions on climate crisis, we see the importance of youth, because we see that climate crisis affects youth's interest in agriculture. It actually compounds the already prevalent challenges to youth engagement in the food systems. And this makes us want to pay attention to the wide array of challenges that youth face, the hardware ones that have to do with the inputs and technologies that they need to apply to maximize their output in the system, and also availability to crop types and resistant varieties that help them to thrive, and also their software challenges which have to do with their skills and mindsets. And so to contribute to the needed shift, we see to contribute to the needed shift for resilience in the sustainable food systems, we see YPAD positioning itself as a platform through which knowledge is generated, disseminated, and demonstrated among the youth. And through our hosting arrangements with FARA, we've been able to open up a host of opportunities available for youth in research and innovation. We see the importance of facilitating exchange of information and knowledge on the reality of climate change and coping mechanisms, particularly adaptation among the youth. And our members are well equipped through connection with our network, because we get to educate them on how to thrive in the current conditions of the food systems through the use of climate smart activities, climate smart agricultural activities, which we sensitize them on while we let them know their role that they play as youth in making us resilient as local people. And we also do this through our YPAD Cafe and information sessions, where we are able to share information among the youth to help them get well informed and well positioned to contribute their best to sustainable food systems. We also document and promote the experiences of success stories of youth who have been able to explore the various best practices for adaptation. And so we would also like to put that forward within this forum, that it's important for us to take note and document best practices for scaling up. YPAD has been able to team up with FARA to do this through a process of experience capitalization, as well as essay competitions as well. And aside these two I have mentioned, we also are able to broaden the opportunities for youth engagement in policy processes. And that is one of the things we also want to put forward within this forum. We realize that it is good to organize the youth and then compile their perspectives on what they feel is the best way forward for us in a discussion on climate crisis and resilience. And this is our way of contributing to inclusivity with respect to youth engagement. And a final intervention that I would want to mention is mentorship and then the capacity building of youth. We've been able to do this with a number of partners aside FARA, and we've connected with institutions like the Czech University of Life Sciences in Europe, Prague, AgriNatura, AgriDia, GIFRAS, and a few more others, the Swiss Agency for Development Cooperation. And we've been able to run internships in scientific communications for youth, where we are able to complement their research-based bachelor's thesis, not just their bachelor's, but then their master's as well. So in a nutshell, all we're saying is that we need to promote climate smart agriculture initiatives among the youth. We also have to facilitate learning to build the skill sets of the youth and to improve upon the mindset, and also advocate for youth's vision for inclusion in the agricultural systems.
Thank you so much, Kofi. Thank you so much, Kofi. I would like to give the floor right now to Ms. Pamela Agnotti. She's an award-winning Ugandan-born Italian social entrepreneur, consultant, Proctor Gallagher Institute and business mindset and human potential coach. A graduate in political science at Makerere University in Uganda, she obtained her Master of Science degree in agricultural economics at the University of London Imperial College at Y in the UK, and developed her professional credentials within the World Trade Institute in Bern, Switzerland, before moving to Rome to work for the UN Food and Agriculture Organization and the development of development cooperation. Thank you so much. Pamela, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. In response to this topic, what research and innovation is needed at a local level in cities and rural areas to ensure nutrition and food environment adapt to climate change? I believe that there are so many areas of where research and innovation is needed, especially from the perspective of the private sector. Me as an entrepreneur, I know that there's a lot of things that we can actually do at the private sector level that bring close to the people capability to produce food to feed their immediate families. But I'm just going to focus on three main areas in my opinion, that is bringing irrigation. as an agricultural entrepreneur, I know that the biggest problem that is on the ground currently is prolonged dry seasons, and to get irrigation systems to farmers. We know that there's good water sources. For example, a country like Uganda, there are lots of lakes, but we cannot get those farmers to have irrigation. In terms of cities, the technologies like hydroponics. Hydroponics is really have a lot of advantages for the environment, and many people would be able to use these simple technologies, but there's a missing link in financing the distribution of these simple technologies to families and to people. So entrepreneurs usually would need to have good access to finance for this. We are also now experimenting in introducing a new technology that was developed by an engineer in Japan, and that is regarding the transportation of perishable food. We know that agriculture is one of the biggest contributors of carbon emissions, and about 40% of that food is wasted because it's perishable, doesn't get to the market in time. And this engineer called Pankaj has invented what is called ice battery. This is an incredible technology that has been tested now in Japan and is moving it to India, and we are working together, hoping that next year we can start testing it in Uganda. And these ice batteries are lined as frozen and then lined in a container or lined in a food truck or in a food box, and it can stay up to 200 hours frozen, maintaining the temperature of the food. What does that mean? In the event of a food crisis, we know that climate crisis does not affect every part of every country at the same time. But the key issue that we really need to address here is the distribution and making that food arrive in healthy state, in a nutritious state, from one place to another. And we have there's a lot of food loss there. With the ice battery solution, with the ice battery technology, it can maintain the environment where the food is stored cool up to 200 hours. That means in those 200 hours, you can transport food from one sector to another, part of a same country or across the borders, and the food will still arrive in a nutritious state. The third key point as an agri-entrepreneur that we are looking at is digitalization of agriculture. Getting information, getting climate information to farmers in time, getting market information to farmers in time, and giving them opportunity to be able to find solutions that can enable them adapt to the crisis that is at hand. So digitalization is opening the world a lot to farmers, but also to share knowledge, because I think that's really a key thing, that farmers are not being able to access easily knowledge about managing the agroecological environment where they are growing their food, and information about how to irrigate, for example. So these are the areas that we are now working at as a private company. We collaborate sometimes with international organizations like the Food and Agriculture Organization in Uganda, to support farming communities with this kind of technologies that allow them to access information in real time, to enable them adapt to climate change. So for today, that is the points that I wanted to really share.
Thank you so much, dear Pamela. I think we've lost connection of one speaker. Therefore, may I propose to go to the Q&A session addressed to all of the speakers. Could I please have the Q&A screened? As I can see, the top leading question right now we have to David Bassett, and that is, what benefits do you see from taking a food system approach? David, are you still with us? Would you like to take the question?
I'm still with you. I'd be delighted to take that question. So from an aquaculture perspective, from an aquatic foods perspective, the food systems approach historically has been dominated by agriculture and terrestrial production. So for us, this includes the opportunity to consider not only direct aquatic foods, so aquatic food for human consumption, but also how aquaculture can play a role in terms of the production of animal feeds, for example, through algae, alongside also, as I referenced earlier on, in fact, looking at the extraction of nutraceuticals and pharmaceuticals from aquaculture product, in addition to the low carbon food protein production. And then again, from our perspective, we're looking at freeing up land resources through what have been until now often untapped areas, aquatic zones for aquaculture production. So we impact in a number of different ways in the food system, as I say, both in terms of direct protein consumption for increasing global population, but then also from other perspectives that impact on terrestrial farming and land use. So for us, very exciting to be included in that wider food system approach to production.
Thank you so much, dear David. The next question that is leading is to Ms. Maglade. The report has mentioned the report that you have mentioned is very interesting and provides useful insights. The question of food system resilience is at the heart of political issue those days. Do you think that the events in Ukraine, Russia has consequences on the outcome of your paper, or does it strengthen them? Jacqueline, would you like to take the question?
Yeah, thank you. It's a great question. I have to say, quite honestly, that when we were writing the report, of course, this wasn't seen on the horizon, which just underlines the fact that we need as much information coming into the SPI world, the science policy world. And that's why you need to have trade, you need to have all those other conversations going on to give the very best policy advice. So in fact, it really underlines the need for rethinking how the network of all the science policy interfaces have to be much more tightly coupled. Because in a sense, we could have probably averted some of those longer term impacts that are happening today, particularly in grain and the distribution, if we'd really had a lot more discussions around not just the food systems itself and the growth and the production, but also how we're transporting food around the world. So I think it enhances our report and certainly says that we can't do these things on their own. We need to be connected to other networks of knowledge and policy making.
Thank you so much, dear Jacqueline. I think we have time for the last question, and the leading one is right now to Irene. Irene, could you mention, can the mentioned research consortium act as a network of networks then? I think it's directly to the reference to your speech. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. I think we know that there are a number of networks already trying to coordinate research across the globe, Africa, Europe, but we still are not able to ratchet up the efforts from the local level through regional to continental to inform policy enough and to inform them quick enough. So the International Research Consortium effort is to add value to the coordination efforts at all levels. So when we talk about networks, we're talking about different networks that are already working, either researchers, extension, farmers, private sector, youth, women, business startups, funders network, all of us coming together to add value to what we're doing. And through the knowledge exchange that we talked about, through ensuring that we have a robust system of assessing what is going on, learning the lessons, building the capacities to work our way through the different approaches that we think will transit us quickly to a climate-proof system is what the IRC is about. And so it's something that I think it's a big game changer in waiting, and we're excited that we've started that effort. So we're asking all legal entities within research and innovation to join hands for this huge collective effort across the globe. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Irene. Thank you all of the speakers. I would like to give the floor right now for closing remarks to Etienne Coyette, who is an agricultural engineer in landscape management, and after 11 years of experience in Central Africa and Central America, he worked on rural development and natural resources management for COTA, a business Brussels-based organization undertaking numerous field missions in Africa, Latin America, and Asia. And he joined the European Commission in 2004 in its environmental service before moving to the External Action Service in 2011 to work on climate change. And he is now working on sustainable agriculture and land governance. Etienne, the floor is yours for the closing remarks. And thank you all for joining the session.
Thank you, Magdalena. And yes, first of all, thank you to all the speakers and the participants. As you have understood, I'm not from the research community. I'm coming from this international partnership directorate in the European Commission, but we are working in close contact with our colleagues in DG RTD and the Joint Research Center, etc. First remark, maybe just to highlight the fact that the way you structure this event with the global, the regional, and then the local level is actually a very good translation about the challenges and the complexity of the challenges we face when we have to address sustainability in food systems. So that's already a very enlightening point. Maybe now looking from our perspective in INSPA, I would note that at all three levels, interdisciplinary approaches and exchange of knowledge were mentioned by the different speakers. That highlights also the fact that whatever we get as results from research or innovation that appears, we actually need to make additional efforts to make sure that this information is circulated, is known, and is getting to, in the end, the final users or the smallholder farmers, which are our primary target. That's the first point. Is research and innovation needed? I think all speakers agree to it, and I can say that we agree to it as well from perspective in INSPA. We need it first for policy development, but not only, also for implementation side. We've heard of very concrete examples and cases which actually are essential if we want to prepare and design the right programs at the right place. I'm happy to say that one of our initiatives, Desira Plus, is actively engaging in bridging these communities between research, innovation, and then the smallholder and the farmers and on the other side. We are supporting the work of FARA and the sub-regional group, so I'm happy to see that we are getting good dynamics over there. The recent conference on climate smart agriculture in Ghana was actually a very good example of what such efforts can lead to. I took note as well of the value chain for development, the aquaculture elements, the innovation that are needed at the field level. That's a good inspiration for us. And just a last point on our orientation, we have a strong commitment in the framework of the Green Deal and the Farm to Fork external dimensions to support sustainable agriculture. We are promoting agroecological approaches and integrated approaches. Aquaculture, we need to integrate that more into the picture. And in the end, we also want to support, as part of our EU answer to the food crisis, support to the local production, the local producers. They are an important part of the solution to food security, to food production. And I think altogether, we will be able to provide a meaningful contribution to this effort. I will stop here and would like to thank you again for the opportunity to take part to this event. Over to you, Magdalena.